分左右。哇，好大的鱼啊！
On April 27th, 2026, parts of Guangxi in southern China experienced the onset of flooding following a sustained period of intense and continuous rainfall, linked to seasonal atmospheric patterns typical of the region. The event occurred during the early stage of the annual rainy season, when warm and moisture-rich air masses originating from the South China Sea interact with inland weather systems, often producing prolonged precipitation and periods of localized severe conditions. Meteorological authorities had issued advance warnings in the days leading up to the event, highlighting an increased risk of flooding, flash floods, and landslides, especially in low-lying areas and mountainous zones where runoff can accumulate quickly or move with significant force. As rainfall persisted into April 27th, flooding began to develop gradually across a number of urban and rural locations. Drainage systems in several towns and smaller cities became overwhelmed as water levels exceeded their designed capacity, leading to widespread waterlogging on streets and in residential areas. Transportation was disrupted in affected zones, with vehicles facing difficulty navigating flooded roads and pedestrians encountering hazardous conditions. At the same time, smaller rivers, streams, and tributaries showed a steady rise in water levels, reflecting the cumulative effect of ongoing rainfall and surface runoff from surrounding terrain. Although major river systems had not yet reached critical flood stage, hydrological monitoring indicated a clear upward trend, prompting authorities to remain on high alert. In agricultural regions, the impact of the flooding began to emerge as water accumulated across fields and low-lying farmland. Crops in some areas were partially submerged, raising concerns about potential damage, delayed planting cycles, and reduced yields if the wet conditions were to continue. Farmers and local communities faced increasing uncertainty as the duration and intensity of rainfall remained difficult to predict with precision. The situation highlighted the vulnerability of agricultural systems to early season flooding, particularly in areas where drainage infrastructure is limited or where soil saturation had already been reached due to previous rainfall events. Emergency response measures were implemented as a precautionary step across multiple jurisdictions within Guangxi. Local governments coordinated closely with disaster management agencies to enhance monitoring of rainfall intensity, river discharge, and soil moisture conditions. In areas identified as high risk, particularly those with steep slopes, unstable ground, or a history of landslides, residents were advised to remain vigilant and prepared for sudden developments. Preventive actions included clearing blocked drainage channels, reinforcing embankments where necessary, inspecting flood control structures, and ensuring that evacuation procedures could be activated quickly if conditions worsened. The physical geography of Guangxi plays a significant role in determining the impact and progression of flooding events. The region is characterized by a diverse landscape that includes karst formations, river basins, rolling hills, and mountainous terrain. These features can accelerate the movement of water during heavy rainfall, channeling runoff rapidly from higher elevations into valleys and urban centers. Once water reaches these lower areas, it can accumulate quickly, especially when drainage systems are unable to cope with the volume.
Ô, khoai tây quay là vài trăm rồi. Để cái trăm nhập ốc à. Ra lên cái gì đó thì vừa trăm nhập ốc này.
Additionally, soil that has already absorbed moisture from earlier rainfall becomes less capable of infiltration, further increasing surface runoff and contributing to rising water levels in rivers and streams. From a climatological perspective, the flooding observed on April 27th represents a typical early season development within the broader pattern of weather in southern China. The region frequently experiences successive waves of rainfall during late spring and early summer, sometimes resulting in more severe and widespread flooding later in the season. While the current situation was assessed as moderate in scale at the time of reporting, weather forecasts suggested that rainfall could persist over the following days, potentially intensifying the situation. This made ongoing monitoring, preparedness, and timely response essential for minimizing potential impacts. As of the latest available information on April 27th, there were no confirmed reports of extensive structural damage or significant loss of life directly associated with this specific flooding episode. However, officials emphasized that the situation remained dynamic and required continuous observation as conditions could change rapidly. The focus remained on early intervention, risk mitigation, and maintaining clear communication with the public to ensure awareness and readiness in the event of further escalation.
Ô, tiểu này mấy trong cây. Ô, tiểu chăm phu thầu la, muốn ta xịt la.
In summary, the flooding in Guangxi on April 27, 2026, marked the beginning of a developing weather-related situation driven by persistent heavy rainfall and seasonal atmospheric dynamics. Although the impacts were initially localized and relatively moderate, the combination of ongoing precipitation, vulnerable geography, and saturated ground conditions created the potential for further intensification. The coming days were expected to be critical in determining whether the flooding would remain contained or evolve into a more significant regional event with broader consequences for infrastructure, agriculture, and local communities.
Khá là cái chuột lọ quá, có vài bạn rồi nha.
Thanks for watching Severe Weather, where we break down the facts behind nature's most intense moments. If you found this video helpful, please like, comment, and subscribe. Your support keeps this channel going. Hit the bell so you never miss a real, calm, and clear report. See you in the next one. Stay informed, stay safe.